Most agency owners don't actually own a business, in my opinion. They own a job with employees. You feel like that's true? I think like, I don't know, if you disappear for 30 days, the biggest question I like to ask is like, would your agency survive or would it fall apart?
Probably fall apart. Probably fall apart. Something won't work. And
Hey, welcome back, everybody. It's me, Ozzy, and
Zack,
together we've built multiple businesses, including Advirtis, where we've helped scale over 300 marketing agencies. And that's really scaling them to grow smarter, act faster, escape the chaos that most agency owners get stuck in. In each episode, we're going to break down real conversations by agency owners. These conversations are around things like sales, operations, scaling, leadership, the wins, the failures, all of it. And to be honest, I think that today's topic is kind of one that we've been going through for the last couple of years as owners, owners in the agency. And I think one of the most sought out questions I get asked a lot from our new agency owner partners is like, how do you remove yourself from your agency operations? And it's basically like, I think a lot of these agency owners, they typically find themselves starting an agency because they were like a freelancer or they worked for an agency in sales or whatever it is to make that big jump. But then they rely on themselves to get to their first 500K in revenue. And then they start firing themselves from positions slowly. And it's really hard to like remove yourself from these, because some of these positions you feel the most comfortable in. And then it's like all of a sudden you're getting to a point where you're having to work yourself out of the business and be focused on growing the business so you can get more opportunity for more employees and you actually become the business owner. But I would argue, and I bet Zach, I know you have a ton to say about this, but I would argue that a lot of these agency owners, they kind of stop at a certain point because they have a hard time trusting and they don't even realize it. So we can get into that. And
yeah,
there's so many ways to build that up, but I know you got stuff to
yeah,
talk about.
I do. And it's kind of frustrating no matter how you slice it. So first and foremost, wherever, wherever the viewer lands, like that, it's completely natural. It's completely normal. The problem comes in when you don't move to that next stage or that next step and you just kind of stay comfortable, right? Just sitting where you're at. So you always have to be moving or growing or at least game planning on how to get to that next level. So like you said, it's very common that somebody who is talented in a marketing skill will go off on their own and become like a freelancer. And then they'll get enough clients to become kind of like a solopreneur where, they're making like maybe like 40K in MRR per month, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less, right? And don't get me wrong, that's still great. I know a lot of people are like, $1,000 every single month. It's like, yeah, that's nice, but usually that person is the point of communication for all their clients. They are the ones executing all the work. They are the ones making sure to double check other people's work, right? And by the
Yeah.
way, something that they don't want to tell you, but even if you're using AI automations or people, they're still double checking work and they're still going to be angry clients and there's still going to be expectations that need to be set and met. And that is part of the agency model. You get a client, you retain them for as long as you're able to until you get another client, and you retain them for as long as you're able to until you get another client. And the goal is that you get new clients in faster than you lose them. That is the marketing agency model. So once you get to about like, $500,000 in revenue per year, that's where you have to start leveraging other people for the most part. Now, those other people could be people executing the work like service delivery. Like you could leverage like Advirtis, right? A white label agency to actually do the Google Ads work and the SEO work and the website work and et cetera, et cetera. Or you could leverage some random freelancer, or you could leverage, or instead of, outsourcing the service delivery, you could outsource the account management, right? That's where you hire a really good account manager. And then you kind of reposition yourself as still service delivery, but someone else is more client facing, or you hire a client success manager, or project managers, different ways to call it.
I have to say this, man, because I think it's interesting. You can hire and do it all in house. It's a lot
Yes,
of work.
right. Yes, yes. Yeah,
Well,
like you can. You're not wrong.
but the reason why I say that is because it's what we've done. And as we've grown, we knew that because we're a white label agency. We had to. We knew we were going to be basically be like a recruiting company essentially.
Yes. That
But
that is our big business model, right?
it's it is a lot of work. And that's the thing I found, like, when you talk to these agency owners, they don't have time for that. They don't have time to hire someone that's talented, first and foremost. That's a whole thing in its own, just to find the right talent. And you guarantee you, those listening to your startup agency, you're gonna have to go through a lot of people to find the exact talent that fits well for you and for your agency. And then second is you have to lay the job out for them and make sure that they understand what their position is, aka exactly what they're doing in their day to day. You have to have the systems built for them to do it and to be able to manage them properly.
Yeah.
You have to,
Yes. Yeah. Well, like I think that's an issue that a lot of business owners think is that, oh, if I hire somebody in account management or I hire somebody that's now my new Google ad specialist, they're just going to bring systems with them. They're going to bring processes with them to execute. And it's not true. They they don't hiring a person does not mean that you've automatically built a department that has process, SOPs, systems, and accurate deliverabilities. It just means that you have a person now does the work, and then that person is just going to sit there and wait for you, Mr. Business Owner, Mr. Boss, to tell them what to do, right? And you can't just assume that like they're going to do it right offhand on top of the recruiting, on top of of interviewing hundreds of candidates and going through hundreds of bullcrap resumes, like you said.
well, and to your point, like going back to this whole show's topic is, how do you remove yourself as an agency owner? It starts with building those systems and hiring and finding the right people or
Yes.
the right teams as a white label vendor or the right freelance network, however you're going to scale your agency. But it depends on the tiers and the level that you're wanting to get your agency or business to, right? And
Yes.
to your point, it's like, okay, I can't have cake at my birthday party until I go to the store and buy the cake. So it's very much the same concept when it comes to, building a team so you can step further away from operating your business. You have to build the systems first to be able to put someone in. Like you and I, when we started Advirtis, we were the salesperson. We were the person in finance. We were the person doing the delivery work. We were the account manager. And then eventually we got so bogged down with the work. We're like, okay, now it's time to hire someone. We brought Josh in and we're like, okay, Josh, what's your skill set? And we can try to build a company around that. And it was hard. And we didn't realize at the time how much those processes mattered to set him up for success. And then later we found out when we had, 15 plus people on our team, how important that stuff was.
Yes, yes, yes. And a lot of business owners, they'll like I said before, they'll get to a 500,000 and then they have to start hiring people or outsourcing this work. And then it'll get them to like 1,000,000, right? Give or take. And then from there, usually the bottleneck becomes like the business owner is the salesperson, right? And they're having all the sales and just kind of handling them in-house. And it's like every step of the way, you need to fire yourself from some type of job. And to do that, like you said, you need to have a system in place. If you are firing yourself from account management, you need to have SOPs for meeting cadences, 90-day onboarding. You need to have cadences for what to do when an account is in escalation, right? How to remedy that. You need to have checkpoints for service delivery, right? What are the KPIs for those services? You need to create systems that keep holds of people accountable. And you need to create systems if you're firing yourself from sales to bring in the leads. What's your lead generation engine? What platforms are you leveraging? What's your follow-up process like? How are you scoring those leads, right? How are you keeping track of it in a CRM and a pipeline? Like you said, you need to build all those systems and processes out in order to fire yourself from it. And I think too quickly business owners say, great, in order for me to not be in ad operations, I'm just going to hire a Google Ads guy. And it's
Yeah.
like, no, that's not going to
Mm-mm.
solve all your
No.
problems.
It'll work for a short time period, but it's not going to work in the long run. And I mean, yeah,
You know what I see a lot of times is that they will hire a Google Ads guy and they think it'll solve all their issues. And then 6 months in, I get a message saying, wow, my Google Ads guy, he says he's tapped out and can't handle all this work, but I've been handling it solo just fine. Why is that? And then I respond with, well, do you have a project management system that he's in for his tasks and his accounts? It's like, no. Okay, does he have weekly tasks that repopulate, monthly tasks for reporting, timelines and meeting cadences set up for him? No. So really you're just raw dogging client management and expectations, and then you just shoved this person who's not you, business owner, and expected this specialist getting
Mhm.
paid 50K a year to come up with all of it on his own? What? That is unrealistic. Now, I say that as someone who thought it was realistic as at one point in time,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Not too long ago, to be honest and transparent, but it's just not realistic and it's just not fair. And so you have to have other entities in charge of the work that you want to be out of. And someone, usually the business owner, usually the leader, has to decide what good is, right?
Mhm.
Is
Right.
good meeting weekly? Is good meeting biweekly? Is good meeting monthly? Maybe you don't need meetings. Maybe good is a great reporting dashboard. Maybe you report from Google Ads. Maybe you report from agency analytics. Good is optimizations. Do you optimize daily, weekly, biweekly? What things do you optimize? Someone has to decide those things, and it can't just be off of vibes. Otherwise, you're not going to scale and grow to 5 mil plus. And
Yeah.
usually the business owners that are doing like 1 to 5 million, they are usually the solo sales guy, and they haven't fired themselves from the sales role. Maybe they fired themselves from ad ops, but not from the sales role.
Yeah, I find that sales is a whole other animal compared to
Mhm.
operations, but it definitely, especially in marketing agencies, I find that that's the last thing that's invested in because no one's going to sell better than the business owner, and that's
Yeah.
fair. Like I understand that. Like I mean, we've seen that in our own business, but to your point, like I think in operations, one of the things that I've witnessed because of the way that we've broken our operations between Zach and I is that Zach manages delivery, I manage the overall business as the CEO. Zach's the COO working on building the business, et cetera. And we both help each other on each side of it. But what I've witnessed is the biggest decision that I witnessed you mentally make, this is on our Colorado trip actually, was this differentiator between understanding that there is a moment when you build a team in your systems that you have to make a decision of what is good and you have to allow them to fail in some capacity every now and again. But you have to have the systems built before you can even acknowledge that. And like I witnessed you do this really well because, guys, this is another thing that I don't think anyone ever really verbally talks about is that as the business owner, no one moves faster than you.
Mhm.
You're the one that makes all the decisions. You're the one that has built the dang thing, you know? So at the end of the day, when you need a deal to get closed, sometimes we as the business owners, if it's a big enough deal like last week, we're jumping in and we're like, we're going to get this thing done. Right. And it's because you can make the decision in the moment. Whereas when you have a team, they don't have that. They have to go back to either someone in upper management, or someone like you as the owner to get that approval, and it just slows everything down. And so like even in operations where retention is important to move fast, sometimes the team, they don't feel the sense of like they have that authority to make those final decisions, right? So you have to build those escalation paths, those systems, the accountability dashboards, whatever it is that makes sense for your business. And until you do so, you can't step out of operations. You can't step out of the business operations. And I think that alone is where a lot of marketing agency owners fail. I've witnessed it where they're not fail, but they just haven't started that yet. They haven't got to that level yet, you
Yeah.
know?
Well, and then they get into this vicious cycle where it's like, man, I've been building my business for 5 years and I'm still doing everything. And it's like, well, yeah, you haven't handed it off or set someone else up well for success to hand it off. It makes complete sense why you're still in the middle of everything. Here's a tidbit, right? Here's a free piece of advice. If you are delivering on a marketing service, I don't care if it's niched to like roofers or home services. I don't care if it's niched to e-commerce. I don't care if it's Google ads, Facebook ads, any pages, websites, SEO, PR, graphic design, creative branding. I don't care what it is. Map out what the first 90 days should look
Mhm.
like
Precisely.
for your client. Like you onboard them, you need to tell them you're going to get this in the first 30 days. And here's it broken down. You're going to get this in days 30 through 60 broken out. You're going to get this in days 60 through 90 broken down. Have that mapped down in a project management tool like ClickUp, Notion, Monday.com, whatever. And then
Yeah.
every time you onboard a client, copy and paste that, assign it to the right members of your team, right? Or yourself, depending on where you're at in your business, and say, success looks like completing this first 90 days of a very successful onboarding. And will that will increase your retention. That will start showing expectations that you have for your team to say, we're going to systematize, we're going to create processes for these. And then you get out of, well, I don't know. What do you think, new hire that I just brought on to my team? What do you think that they should do? You tell me how to like get there. Okay, that's great. Yes, but like there should be expectations and standards that are set, and you need to write those down somewhere for people to meet those.
That's funny. We did this recently. We rehashed out our client journey on that blackboard here in my office, and it's ugly, guys. Our handwriting's terrible, or at least mine is. Zach, I'm not going to speak for you, but it's not great, guys. But ultimately, like, it's the ugliest day where you're like, I can just, if I set the scene for a second, I got this big black glass blackboard in my office. It's pretty cool looking, but it's not good for reflective. If you guys are thinking about getting a black glass board to draw on, do not do it. Trust me. Whatever you do, don't just get a regular whiteboard. And so Zach and I, we draw our entire client journey from prospect, either coming from our website or from our cold outreach or from ads, whatever it is, right? Inbound or outbound, all the way to when we deliver and we are retaining an account, our process for that. And it's ugly. It is, detailed. It should be ugly. And if it's not, then there's something wrong. You probably should be doing doing that anyways. But ultimately, when you are able to take that step out of your business, and you should do this as a business owner at minimum once per year. If you're not, you're really messing up. I actually argue that maybe we should do it once a quarter, but take that step out, look at the overall company as a whole, and then be able to essentially find your little gaps in that process. And I tell you what, we've done that over the last few years, and it has helped us find so much focus on where we need to really focus. I'm going to be honest with you guys here. We did it this year, and our sales team's grown a lot this year. We've had a really great amount of talent come in to where we realized we need to activate our partnerships better, like full transparency. And so we've realized that we're like, okay, this is going to serve our partners better if we activate these partnerships and help them more in the sales side by going through their client roster, helping them find upsell, cross sells, like doing these different things that we didn't see before. And I think that when you're able to look at it from a high level, essentially it helps you find these little gaps, and that helps you get to the main goal. Again, back to today's topic of removing yourself from agency operations. And if you're
Yes.
able to identify those gaps, then you can fill them with intention. And that's probably the most important part.
Yeah. Because I guarantee for all the marketing agency owners watching this, there's a gap in your onboarding, in your account management, in your service delivery, in your sales. There's something that is missing in a gap that is not written down, that's not easily communicated as a standard for your team, but inherently, well, of course this is the right thing to do. For instance, you send out a quote and a proposal, and you probably should follow up right away as soon as you send it and say, hey, did you get my quote and proposal, Mr. Client? Or better yet, when you're on the meeting with the client, you send them the quote and the proposal and you walk through it with them and you schedule a meeting for that, right? Or in your follow-up process, you find out that after you send out your quote and your proposal, you call them the next day and then the next day, right? Or if you take Google Ads, for instance, after you launch a campaign, double check and make sure that campaign hasn't spent $1 million in the last 2 hours. So just set a timer to just go back and double check the campaign. These are things that you learn, and it's a reason that you're a business owner. It's a reason that you've even built something that even makes $500,000 a year, is because inherently, here are the mistakes, here are the pitfalls, here's how people work and operate, here's how Google Ads operate, here's the account management expectations I need to set. Otherwise, somebody's just going to go haywire with their expectations about what I can offer them. But those things, and that's tribal knowledge. That tribal knowledge needs to be yanked out of you, and it's your job to yank it out of yourself and throw it on a piece of paper, throw it on a blackboard, throw it into AI, throw it into ChatGPT, throw it into Notebook LM. I don't care. It just needs to get out of you and onto something else where another person on your team can interact with it, read it, consume it, watch it, and learn from it. because that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to take things out of yourself and impart it to your team so that they can operate at least 70% as good as you can. At least 70%.
I was meeting with one of our newest sales reps this past week, and he had asked me, when Zack and I founded the company, he was like, why do you think agencies partner with you guys? Like, what's the main reason? And I mean, honestly, I think a lot of it has to do with the systems and processes that we've built is the reason why they partner with us, let alone the relationship side of it. It's so custom, like every partnership so custom. But the reason why it's so custom is because we have created such a tight system for our team. And it allows our team to have those personal relationships with our partners, which is personally our clients, right? And I think that it allows us to focus on that relationship because you and I have built such a tight process within our company, and everybody knows exactly where they fit in that process or in that client journey. And so, talking about the difference between if you're an agency doing, anywhere from, 0 to 1, which I would consider $0 to $1 million, to an agency doing 1 to 5 million. So 0 to 1, again, you're doing a lot of that work. 1 to 5, you're finally building that team. And then 5 plus, you've got the system and you're probably working on the business more often than not. And I'd say most of our partners are the 1 to 5 range. That's why they partner with us, is because they want access to that level of talent, which is what we have. And that's kind of why we say in our outreach, like, listen, like, we're putting a 7-figure agency team. This is 7 figures a year. We pay this team. We incentivize them to close all your business. We give them commission on your behalf. That's true. 100% true. We incentivize them to retain your client accounts. 100% true. We build all the incentives around that. We even send them on trips, guys. Like, it's insane. But all that to say is, like, when an agency partners with us, they're tapping into what we've built, so they don't have to do it themselves. And I think that that's the biggest difference in what, when we were talking about why agencies will partner with us versus another white label vendor, is because they're basically getting those incentives that we've built that no other white label agency is doing for their employees, essentially.
It's also very, we've taken a lot of the risk out of it. Partnering, when a marketing agency partners with Advirtis for service delivery, we've taken the risk out of it. I mean, our service is month to month, right? We even have a 30-day money back guarantee, so that if an agency signs up with us, we start working together and they're like, man, I just hate that Zack and Ozzy always wear hats. This is obnoxious. It's like, all right, we'll just part ways, no big deal. And we'll give you your money back. Because odds are, if they don't like working with us in the first 30 days, they're not going to. They're not going to change their mind. So we'd rather just move on and work with other people.
Recently, we also confirmed, like, we decided to become a company that says, hey, look, if we make a mistake, we'll own it. No other, like, even you hire someone, like, if we've had, if there's like any sort of mistake made in an ad account, Advertis owns it. We're like, yeah,
Advirtis
we made
owns
this
it.
mistake.
Yeah, and will help to seek compensation, reparations. Like that is a big part of Advirtis and sort of the market. That's why we're a premium white label agency, right? Majority of our team are native English speakers, and majority of our team are very comfortable being in the weeds, having regular meetings,
All of our
meeting
teams
with the
in,
agency partners.
you said native English speakers. I'm like, yeah, they, of course, they live in the United States.
Right. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Obviously. And yeah, a lot of our team is just kind of based right here and understand that simple things like Father's Day in the United States is when Father's Day is in the United States versus when Father's Day is in another country, right? They're different times or different days for different campaigns for different businesses. And by being a premium marketing agency, we know what it's like to struggle with hiring, firing, finding good talent, putting in structures, putting in systems, putting operating procedures that scale and grow, finding the right project management tool, finding the right meeting cadence, all that kind of stuff. So we did all that work. And now we're just offering it to other marketing agencies to tap in and to grow and to scale, right? The quickest way for you, business owner, to get out of ad operations is to delegate it to someone else. And if you feel like it's too much of a risk, or you don't know how to hire a good media buyer, or you don't know how to hire a good SEO specialist, then don't take on that risk. Advirtis has already taken on that risk. Work with Advirtis, right? White label this service. Best case scenario, you scale up into these services, into media buying, into SEO, into websites, and you scale up so large it's like, oh man, this is a whole other department. This
Mhm.
is great. I'm getting, another 50K per month in revenue just from paid media that Advirtis is managing. Maybe now it's time to hire in an in-house XYZ person, leveraging the systems that Advirtis put in place. That's, you know what? I would love to have that problem. I'd love to have a problem where Advirtis helps so many marketing agencies that they all become so successful and bring on these new services to their retainers that they have to hire in-house talent just to manage us, right?
Mhm.
And that happens so much with our agency partners.
I agree. And at the end of the day, as a business owner, your goal should be to provide more opportunity for you to grow your team, as well as more opportunity to help your clients succeed. And so if you're in the weeds of operations, you cannot continuously innovate your business and grow with the market. You're going to have to take that step out to be able to be relevant to market, as obviously, especially marketing agencies, because the marketing industry, it moves so quickly. And
Mhm.
so, all that being said, back to Zach's point, any way that you can find and build those systems, it's going to be the thing that's going to serve you best. And a lot of our partners choose to work with us because we can help them get that focus back on allowing them to work on their business instead of in their business. But yeah, as we wrap up today, I just want to kind of highlight a quick win for our company. We worked with one of our partners on the large RFP that they secured. Finally, it was like a 7-month project for us to help them secure that RFP, but it was a massive win for everyone. I think it was like for them, like a 10 to $15 million contract over 18 months. So it was awesome that our team was a part of helping them get that win. And I'm super excited to share that. And if you're an agency looking to quote those large projects and you're unsure, let us come in and help you out with that. That's what we're skilled at. That's what we do for all of our partners. And would love to do that with you and help you get that win as well. But ultimately, going back, if you're an agency owner and your goal is to work yourself out of your business, get out of the business, find the right partner, find the right processes. And obviously, Zach or I are happy to help you with that as well. So, but until next time, guys, thanks for joining us here and we'll see you next time. Thanks. Good show, buddy.